Rev up your engines!
Well, if you're following the electric car wars, Subaru is just introducing their Solterra, their electric car. Now, it's a Subaru-Toyota joint venture. They're using the same motors, the same basic skateboard platform for the vehicles. And they say their Solterra electric EV is going to have 328 miles of range, with the smaller version. The all-wheel drive one has less range, uses more energy. Car show in LA, that's going to be its debut in the United States. Solterra, of course, meaning sun and earth, you know. And really, it's pretty much the same car as the Toyota BZ4X. It'll have 71.4 kilowatt hour battery that can go 329 miles. I was off 1 mile in the beginning. Of course, who's to say if it's actually going to do that? You know how that goes. But if you have all-wheel drive, it can only go 286, they say. Yeah, send me one, people. I'll try it out and see what it goes. You know, that'll never happen, of course. They don't trust me because they know I'm going to tell the truth and I'm not going to hide anything. We'll give you 50 grand under the table to say how far you went. You know, I don't do that kind of stuff, so they never give me anything like that. I challenge them all to bring me some of those vehicles. Let me try them out. Yeah, that's never going to happen, though. And they say they can charge you at 80% in 30 minutes at a real fast charger. But of course, since they're debuting it at the Los Angeles car show, there's no pricing available yet. They're all playing a game. Oh, gee, what are we going to charge for these things? Meanwhile, Tesla just keeps raising the prices of his. He just raised his $5 grand a car. Who knows? They're all want to make money. They're all greedy, and they'll try to see here's what the other guys are charging. Let's charge exactly the same. It's more than a coincidence that gasoline in one area is pretty much the same price, regardless of what company is selling it. You know, they say there's no collusion. Well, what a lot of baloney that is. How come they're all the same price? They're the price wars, right? Looks like the electric car makers are going to do the same thing. The only wild card I can see in that mix would be the Chinese bringing them over here and really undercutting it. But then I suppose, you know, the legislators will put a big tax on it or something so that they can't take over that way. It'll be another political boondoggle with electric cars. There's enough of it going on already with the credit. They cost a fortune. They give you a credit for them. The administration now says, oh, they're going to help all the poor people out. Yeah, by giving a tax break to the rich who buy electric cars. I don't comprehend how any of that fits in any scenario. But the Solterra is going to be out. We don't know what it's going to cost. I'm assuming since it's a joint with Toyota and Subaru, that it'd probably be a decent vehicle, you know, but still, it's an electric car. You got to deal with all the crap that electric cars have. Plus, they're new vehicles. You never know where the bugs are until they've been out a while. The funniest thing to me, though, is if they do actually start selling a bunch of these things, boy, with the lack of infrastructure in this country, people who buy them, they're going to be really sad shape when they find out where they travel, how long it's going to take them to get somewhere, and how long it's going to take them to actually charge it up. And these machines, of course, like anything else in this country, especially electronic stuff, they aren't going to work right. When I went from Tennessee to Rhode Island, the vending machines ripped me off for $6. They didn't work. The drinking fountains didn't even work. So who's to say the electric chargers are going to work if they ever even put them in? They won't maintain them correctly. I see how that, you know. They'll build something and they don't maintain it, and then down it goes. And of course, they're going to have a limited lifespan just like everything else. Those electric windmills, right? They have a very limited lifespan. Then they're broken. Take a trip to California around the Salton Sea and check out broken windmills that are all over the place, deteriorating. They never show you that part in the media, you know? They just show you the shiny new ones spinning around. They don't show you what happens after so many years and they fall apart. Imagine an electric infrastructure falling apart for cars. Carlos, the bike merch, says, Scotty, I got a Tesla and I can't hear my engine running. What's wrong with it? Well, actually, it's supposed to make a noise when you're going low to warn people outside. If it isn't making that noise, you're actually breaking the law. Pedestrians can't hear them, looking at their phone, and they don't hear a car, boom. I was in New York City once in a taxi, and a guy almost killed a woman who was talking on her phone, and the idiot had earbuds in, and she didn't even hear the taxi cab, and he almost killed her. It should be making some kind of noise, but of course, it's an electric car. They don't make much noise, but they're by law supposed to make a certain noise when you're going under 25 miles an hour to warn people that you're coming. Although I suppose you're just making a joke. When I was a young mechanic, guy made a joke. He thought he was going to pull it off on his 14-year-old kid at the gas station, right? He says, check my antifreeze. So it was a Corvair. And I said, it's a Corvair. It's air-cooled. He thought he was going to fool me, right? But I opened his hood anyways, and lo and behold, the idiot had one of the spark plug wires had been pulled off of the spark plug. I said, hey, you had a spark plug that came off. It wasn't even running right. You know, you think you're making a joke for me, and I found out something was wrong. So Dominic Stair says, my 2015 Honda Civic SI is made in Canada. Is it just as good as in Japan? Generally, about as good. Canadians are very good at building cars. I've had 2 Canadian cars in my life. I've had a Ford Maverick that was made in Oakville, Ontario, and I still have my wife's Matrix that was made in Cambridge, Ontario. Excellent vehicles. But realize one thing. It's still the Honda Japanese engines, transmissions, all that stuff in them. They're not building the engines there. They're coming from Japan. So it's more or less assembly points where they're putting the stuff together. And Canadians are pretty good at building cars. I'll tell you, I drove the heck out of that Maverick, bought it for $550, drove it for years and years in the Matrix. Who knows? I might have it 50 years from now. If they still sell gasoline, it'll probably still be running. And that was made in Cambridge, Ontario. So yeah, they make them good there. Conroe says, Scotty, do I have to do valve adjustment on my 2010 Honda Civic? There's no weird noises yet. It's a good idea to do them at least like once every 70, 80,000 miles. Not all that often, right? But it is a good idea because Honda, as I said numerous times, they're not like other cars. They don't have hydraulic lifters in them. You have to adjust them. They're little threaded rods with bolts. You got to loosen them and then adjust them and do all of them. It's kind of a pain in the butt. 70, 80,000 miles, do it, and it'll last longer and run better. Melinda says, my Toyota is accumulating rust around the rear wheel. What type of auto shop can fix or best prevent the rust? If it's already rusting, you can't prevent it. Like Neil Young saying, never sleeps. It's just sitting there rusting away day, night. Once you actually have rust, you got to cut away the rust, just like cancer in a person. You got to cut it away, and then you weld new metal. Well, you don't weld new metal in people, but same analogy. You got to get rid of it all, or it'll just keep growing, just like cancer. Now, if you want to do a half-ass job, use Bondo and fiberglass, but it's just going to come off eventually. To prevent it, if you live where there's a lot of salt, you want to rinse your car off all the time in the winter when they're running salt in the road to keep the salt from getting inside there and rusting away. To me, it's kind of interesting. You mentioned Honda. Toyotas do a much better job of their rust prevention. My mother had a Toyota Corolla, 16 years old, in Buffalo, New York. It still had no rust on it. And she never rinsed the thing off. It didn't live in a garage. It lived outside in the driveway. So they do a better job with rust prevention there. To prevent rust, it's got to be sealed with zinc primer when they build it. If you add undercoating and stuff, it helps a little, but still there's all kinds of parts of the car you're not going to be undercoating, and they will rust if they weren't primed right with zinc primer and other additives when the car was built in the first place. Here we go with old Elon again. Mr. Tesla just sold $5 billion worth of Tesla stock for himself. This kind of reminds me of that movie in the book, The Big Short, where for years these banks and investments were putting money in these supposed AAA bonds, and the one guy says it's all a scam. He watched the people in Florida, different places where they were selling houses to people that were bums, and handwritings on the wall. Yet these companies said, no, they're AAA, AAA. Well, while they were AAA, these companies were selling it to other people, their investors, and then when the crap hit the fan, the other investors lost all their money. Well, I see this as kind of a similar thing myself, because the reason he's selling them, he has what are called stock options for them. When it gets to a certain value, he makes a big profit, and his stock options, it turns out, expire August of 2022. Now, he can't sell them all then, or the stock would collapse and nobody would buy it, right? If you notice recently, the stock has come down quite a bit. It's lost like $50 billion in value or something. I don't know, maybe he's crabbing his pensions. He's got better cash out now before it's too late. They say he's the richest man in the world, right? But it's all on paper. The stock options that, he has no risk to them because they're stock options. If they go below, he doesn't exercise the option. He doesn't lose money. It's not like he actually bought the stocks. Like if you buy it, you're buying it. Him, no. But he's got to do it by August of 2022. And he couldn't do it all this, so he's starting to sell them out. Scam artists that were selling these AAA rated bonds that were actually garbage bonds and saying, oh yes, they're good. No, this guy's wrong. There's nothing wrong with them. They're unloading all of theirs on other people, and then when it's all gone, those people lose their money and they didn't. So, and the thing is, of course, here he can't escape the tax. You can't go from California to Texas to escape that tax. That's federal tax. You make a profit, you got to pay taxes. And he said some of the part that he sold, he had to sell them to pay the tax on the profit that he had made. Really, if they're going to count what this guy's value is, I think they should count what he's gaining. And if it's 35% tax, that should be 35% less of what he's actually worth. So he's not the richest guy in the world, actually. He's selling his stock now, but he's telling you people to go out and buy it. I just can't wait till all the dust settles. See if this ends up as just another one of those big shorts where there's just a bunch of conning going on and people shuffling, making money, doing nothing. It used to be, and it's still pretty close, that Tesla was the most shorted stock in the world. Maybe it'll end up being like a big short, who knows? But he's selling his. That kind of tells you something, doesn't it? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.